This is going to be a video on how to ride the individual pursuit. Now, coming from someone who's never actually ridden the individual pursuit, but it's something I'm looking at doing this winter. So, looking at the demands of the event, how I'm going to train for it, and yeah, seeing what the best people have done in the past. Starting out, different to regular time trialing, you're on the track, running a fixed gear, so your speed is directly proportional to your cadence. But in the same way, time trialing outdoors, that speed that you're able to produce is a function of your power and your CDA. So if you're able to produce more power or the same power at a lower CDA, you're going to be able to go faster. Looking at the fixed gear Ashton Lambie used, first man to break 4 minutes for the IP. It was a 64-15 ratio, and I'm thinking that a 58-14, it's slightly lower ratio, so yeah, same cadence. You'd go a little bit slower, but still the room to get up to those high speeds that's required for the event. Big's better, but thinking about like what's feasible to get a hold of, 58-14 is realistic for if I have to convert my Velo P3, if I'm not able to source a TT track bike to borrow. In terms of the numbers that I'm thinking I'll need to do, obviously I'll just have to find this out once I start doing the proper training, but the demands of the event, you've got this standing start where you're having to get this really big gear up to speed, so a high torque sprint where you're basically wanting to be generating close to your max power for best part of a lap. Really hard out the gates, getting easier as the cadence is picking up, but it's still a solid 15-second sprint, I reckon, and then that transitions directly into a 4-odd minute max VO2 max effort, which is an extremely hard effort in itself, but off the back of like a very big sprint. So yeah, it's a tough event for a reason. I've done some power profiling. I tried to mimic an IP, but it wasn't really a proper low torque sprint start. It was 15 seconds at 760 watts. But yeah, it was a good 4 and a bit minute effort at a bit over 500 watts. Also done 3 minutes at 577 outdoors on the TT bike in TT position. Not as aggressive a position as you'd want to be holding for the IP, because naturally I'm out on the road. I feel like with those numbers there's the potential to do well at the event, and I'm thinking like maybe with good training I can be doing like 550 average for the IP, and yeah, just see what my CDA is looking like when I'm actually on the track, as there's also the element of like holding the black line to not be going any further than you need to. Something Ashton mentioned with his training was he was kind of following a middle distance runner approach. Thankfully I have some experience with, so yeah, it does make sense with the 4 kilometer IP being let's say a 3-minute 50 to a 4-minute 20 event sort of thing. It is the running equivalent would be the 1500 meters, but we've also got that element of that absolute max sprint out the gates that you have to recover from whilst doing that VO2 max effort. There's that additional demand, but in terms of running equivalents, it's well they've got to do a nasty sprint at the very end, which is kind of what I prefer, but that doesn't really work for the IP. You need to get that sprint out at the start, and then you want to be fading towards the end. You don't want to be lifting it. Looking at middle distance runners, there's someone who's been very influential over the past few years, and one of the reasons I'd say why the level of middle distance running has really stepped up, and that's Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who's primarily a 1500 meter runner, but he's probably a better 5k runner, he'd say. So it just shows that a short event of 3 minutes 30 on the athletics track, it still has that huge aerobic component. So you can't just train like a sprinter. You have to have that base of fitness. So I reckon a 10 mile TT which is my best event, is probably a pretty good predictor of the IP. It doesn't say everything. Despite it being 4 odd minutes, it is a very aerobic event. Thinking about the training that Jakob does, it's primarily threshold training and then some race specific training. So for example, this could be like 400 meter, 600 meter, 800 meter reps on the track, and these are kind of like similar to what I'd do for a VO2 max session on the bike, where you're trying to average the highest speed or highest power for each of those efforts, and you're digging deep for these sessions. And thinking about what I did when I was training for 800 meters, you're rarely doing more than 400 meters above race pace. 500 meters at race pace. That's just like a simulation workout, in my opinion. So you're rarely doing like half the distance above race pace. Now with cycling, you can, with it being non-load bearing, you can really bulk up these sessions and get more work done, I'd say. But the principle still applies that you wouldn't be doing 3-minute efforts at race pace and expecting to do like a lot of them, like maybe one or maybe two of those as a simulation session sort of thing, with a good chunk of rest in between. But it's not like you're going to be going absolutely crazy with it. So based off that, I'm thinking what a good session to do would be like 1 or 2 kilometer reps on the track. So learning how to produce the power and ride the track at race pace. The demands of that, those efforts can't be too long, so 1 or 2 minutes essentially, and then probably just building up however many I could do of those over time. Learn to get better at riding the track and holding the black line, for example. It's not just going to be the track work, like the maintaining a good level of aerobic fitness is also going to be very important. Not going to be smashing the zone 2 miles, but you do need to be getting the hours in just to keep that mitochondrial efficiency up, and all the good gummins that come from zone 2. I don't know, talk to Peter Attia, whoever it is. Moving on to some other training that I'll do to complement the threshold and VO2 max work. Those being the priority, I'd say, maintaining a good level of fitness and having that race specific power and speed. That's going to be torque and sprint. So as I mentioned, it's hugely demanding that starting high torque sprint. So working on your maximal power is going to be critical for getting out the gates hard and getting up to speed. So not just that start, but the 15-second max-ish effort to really get the cadence going. So yeah, to do that, going to be just working on improving that 1 to 30-second power. As at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters what cadence it is. Ideally, it would be low starting speed, so like low flywheel speed if you're doing them on the turbo. But to be honest, it's just going to be raw power, in my opinion. Like someone who can produce 500 watts more than me for a maximal sprint, they're going to be better at sprinting out the gates in the IP, even though it's a different sprint to their maximal sprint. Trying to bring up that ceiling is going to be the main thing, and then doing some torque work, maybe that improves the standing start sprint, but the main thing is just bringing up that power. In terms of torque work, the torque isn't, in my opinion, it's just a different modality of training. The actual event itself, the torque demands of that aren't too crazy. With the gearing that I'm thinking and the power that I should be able to produce, it's not a ridiculously high torque. It's similar to what I do for VO2 max sessions outdoors, to be honest. So you're not doing the torque work to survive the event itself. My VO2 max session outdoors are 45 to 50 Newton meters. I'd want to be training at kind of double that for the torque sessions I'm doing, especially if they are on the shorter end duration. Hear stuff about how they're great for fatigue resistance and such, but at the end of the day, it's kind of bollocks. Like, fatigue resistance is just being able to produce more power for longer. Like, someone who's fatigue resistant, it's just because they're able to produce good power at the end of the race. It's just getting fitter, but where the benefits of torque is it's a different modality of getting that fitness. So it's a way to spice up the training, so you're not just smashing VO2 max threshold efforts all year. You're doing a different type of stimulus to hopefully elicit different fitness gains, and then you can build on that when you go back to the more conventional training. Power is a function of torque and cadence, so cadence times torque gives you your power, times K, but it's not so simple as, okay, let's write a training plan that so we get 10 watts on our FTP every 10 weeks. Like, it's not going to work. But if you can manipulate one of the variables, so working on being able to produce higher torque or being able to produce higher cadence, for example, for someone who likes to grind away rather than spin to win, they could see benefits in the average power that they're able to produce by isolating one of those variables. So that's why I kind of see the benefit of the torque work rather than this kind of wishy-washy stuff. It's you're working on a specific thing, and that specific thing has the potential to carry over to being able to produce higher power. So I've done torque work for the past few seasons, and I think it works quite well. I found doing it in erg mode is the way to go. You just set the power and then don't have to think about that. You just have to focus on keeping to your desired cadence. You're not trying to control two variables at once. You're just trying to control one, which is keeping the cadence nice and low and not slipping into the spiral of doom. And yeah, I find it's a nice stimulus to do during the winter, so 1 to 4 minute range, that's going to work well with the IP. In terms of other stimulus, gym, going to be a big one, so I've been doing like very maintenance gym work this year, just unilateral work to kind of keep my body working efficiently, working through this long-term injury that I've had with a pinched nerve. So I've been doing a lot of stretching and keeping on top of my unilateral gym work this year. Going to be doing that, and I'm actually going to be pushing it rather than just doing it at a maintenance level. Doing a strength session as well, so pushing my squat and bringing my deadlift back up to a decent level again. I think that combines nicely with the torque work, with the sprints, and like I say, those are important for the IP. So gym is going to be a big one again during the winter, and again with the torque, it's a different stimulus to focus on. I know I'm not going to be doing it in the summer when I'm focused on my outdoor time trialing. As for heat stimulus, I think I'd like to try it again. I think I kind of overdid it in 2024, and as a result, kind of really didn't bother at all this year, and it's worked fine for me not doing it, but there are fitness gains to be had from it. I mean, I'm not going to blowing up from heat exhaustion during a 4-minute effort, but it does get warm. It is warm inside the velodromes, and there are benefits to the heat training other than just performing in the heat. So I'd like to play around with the heat work. I'll be training on the turbo a lot anyway, so it's like, why not do some heat work? I'm not going to be doing just crazy volume, so see if I can experiment with the heat work and get it to work for me, because some people have seen really good benefits from it, so see if I can find that myself. And last thing, supplements. It's last for a reason, because they're supplementary, like they're the 1% sort of thing. A lot of the same, some things different. So multivitamin, just something I take year round to cover my bases, reduce the risk of getting some sort of vitamin deficiency. Creatine is something I've taken in the past when I was doing a lot more gym training, and with the demands of the IP, we've been saying the gym, the torque, the sprints, that anaerobic burst power you're going to get from the creatine. I'd say yes, that's definitely something I want to be reintroducing. It works. When I take it, I don't have any perceived benefits, but I trust the plethora of scientific studies that say it's effective. So I'll be taking that again this year, and I'll put on some water weight, but to be honest, it's negligible, and I'm not concerned about the weight. I'm already on the heavier end myself, and it's not something that concerns me for a flat IP. Beta-alanine, that's something I took all of last year and all of this year as well. Again, it's one that's got a lot of scientific studies behind it that show it can be effective, and it's cheap. It's easy to take. I'll just take it in the morning with my breakfast, and I think continue to take that this year. Once you've loaded it and you take it every day, the paresthesia, the skin tingling sensation you get from it isn't as major. So caffeine, that's kind of no-brainer. The main ergogenic aid for sports performance. So I'll take them for specific trainings. Take that for specific training sessions. The only thing to watch out for is the timing of it. If my training session's in the evening, for example, or I've got a race in the evening, I need to weigh up if it's worth it to have the detrimental sleep from having that level of caffeine in your system. The half-life of caffeine is 6 or 7 hours, I think. If you took 2 espressos at 6 o'clock in the evening, that would be the equivalent of taking 1 espresso at 12 o'clock when you're trying to go to 12 o'clock in the evening when you're trying to go to bed, as it takes. The half-life is the time taken for half the substance to degrade. So if you took 200 milligrams of caffeine, 6 hours later, that's effectively 100 milligrams of caffeine in your system, which is still a lot. So if I'm taking a 200 mg tablet in the afternoon, evening, then there's still going to be a lot in my system. And if that's going to have a knock-on effect of disrupting my sleep and making my training not so good for the next week, then you need to weigh up if it's worth it. Bicarb, this is something I've tried experimenting with a tiny bit, but not a huge amount. Not had any success with it, just because I've just taken pure bicarb and just hard to take, and I wasn't even taking doses that were efficacious. Really, they were on the very low end to try and just build up that tolerance. But I didn't have the GI issues people talked about, but just the taste of it. But I do have some ideas of how to possibly make my own formula to get the bicarb in, based on how the Morton product's formulated, which is very widely used now in the middle distance running space, and probably in cycling as well. As yeah, it has been shown to be effective, but it is very expensive. Last one being nitrates. This being, so people taking the beetroot shots. The idea being high levels of nitrates that the body would convert to nitric oxide to dilate the blood vessels and hopefully see some performance gains. Not as effective as the ones previously mentioned, but potential gains there. But I don't. Again, it's very expensive. It's probably not worth actually taking the beetroot shots themselves, just because. But I think the benefits are there from nitric oxide. It's just, what is there a better way to consume it? Reason to eat healthier. There's lots of benefits to eating a healthy balanced diet with lots of vegetables, and this being one of them. The vegetables that are really high in nitrates are very high in other micronutrients. I know, rather than taking this supplement, if it encourages you to eat more of these vegetables that are well rounded in lots of things, then I think that's going to be as good, if not better. I'm new to this, but I feel like I have a good grasp of, well, cycling training in general, and kind of the demands of what's going to be expected for the IP to do well at it. And yeah, I'm up for the challenge, so but willing to learn from people with a lot more experience than me. But yeah, should be good.